The wind carried dust across the platform like a quiet farewell. It was the kind of place people passed through, not the kind they stayed in. Yet Alira stood there, unmoving. Not because she wanted to stay, but because she had nowhere left to go. The train that brought her had already disappeared into the distance. Its echo still lingered in the rails, fading slowly like the last thread of hope she had been holding onto. Around her, the station buzzed with life. Women were being greeted. Names were being called. Laughter echoed. Doors opened. Lives began. But not hers. Elira tightened her grip on the small, worn suitcase by her side. The leather was cracked. One corner was held together by a strip of cloth she had tied herself days ago. Inside were her entire possessions. 2 dresses, a pair of shoes, and a folded letter she had read so many times the ink had begun to fade. She didn't need to take it out to remember what it said. We are looking for someone kind, someone patient, someone who can bring warmth into our home. They had chosen her. Or at least she thought they had. Her eyes slowly moved across the platform. Every other girl had been claimed. Some by families. Some by men who looked hopeful. Some by people who smiled, as if they had found exactly what they were searching for. Elira watched one of the last wagons roll away, carrying a girl who had been standing beside her just an hour ago. That girl had been nervous, quiet, unsure, but someone chose her. Someone saw something worth taking home. Elira swallowed. No one had even looked twice at her. Not really. A few glances. A few quick assessments. Then eyes turning away. Like she was something incomplete. Something not quite right. The station slowly emptied. Voices faded. Footsteps disappeared. Until there was nothing left but silence and her. The old clock above the ticket window ticked loudly, marking time that seemed to move slower with every passing second. Elira finally sat down on the wooden bench. It creaked under her weight. The cold seeped through her thin dress. But she didn't move. Because moving would mean accepting the truth. And she wasn't ready for that yet. Not yet. 1 hour earlier. Stand straight. The woman's voice had been sharp, precise. Elira obeyed immediately. Lift your chin. She did. Turn. Elira turned slowly, hands clasped in front of her. The woman circled her once, then stopped. Silence. That silence had stretched too long. Elira felt it. That quiet, heavy kind of judgment. Finally, the woman sighed. A small, disappointed sound. We were expecting someone different. Those words landed harder than any insult. Elira blinked. I can cook, she said quickly, and clean I learned fast. That won't be necessary. The woman stepped back. A man stood behind her, saying nothing. Just watching. But not kindly. Not warmly. Just distant. Like someone looking at something they had already decided against. I'm sorry, the woman said, though her voice held no softness. This won't work. Elira's chest tightened. I came all this way. The door closed. Just like that. No explanation. No second chance. No looking back. Back to the present. Elira stared at the ground. Her reflection shimmered faintly in a puddle near her feet. She looked small. Smaller than she remembered. She wrapped her arms around herself. The air had grown colder. Or maybe it was just the loneliness settling in. A sudden gust of wind swept through the station, rattling loose boards and making the hanging lantern sway slightly. Then, footsteps. Heavy, measured, unhurried. Alira stiffened slightly, but didn't look up immediately. She had learned not to. Strangers rarely brought good news. The footsteps came closer, then stopped, right in front of her. Everyone's gone. The voice was deep, calm, not unkind. Alira lifted her eyes slowly. A man stood a few steps away. Tall, broad-shouldered. His coat carried dust from long roads. A hat shaded part of his face, but not enough to hide his eyes. They were steady, observant, but not cold. She looked away first. I noticed. He nodded slightly, as if her answer confirmed something. Miss your ride? No. A pause. They just didn't take me. There was no bitterness in her voice. Just truth. The man studied her for a moment, longer than most people did. Not judging. Not dismissing. Just seeing. My name is Callan. Alira hesitated. Alira. Another pause. The wind whispered through the station again. Then, where will you go now? Alira didn't answer. Because she didn't have one. Callan seemed to understand that without needing to hear it. He glanced toward the empty platform. Then back at her. Then something unexpected happened. A small voice echoed from behind him. Papa. Another voice followed quickly. Papa, we woke up. Two little boys ran into the station. Barefoot. Hair messy. Eyes bright with life. They rushed toward him without hesitation. Callan knelt slightly as they reached him, wrapping his arms around them with quiet familiarity. You were supposed to stay in bed. We tried, one said. He kicked me, the other added. I did not. Callan exhaled softly, almost like a laugh he didn't fully let out. Then his eyes shifted. Back to Alira. The boys followed his gaze. They both looked at her. Not quickly, not dismissively, but curiously, like she was something interesting, something worth noticing. Who's she? The smaller one asked. Alira felt suddenly exposed. Callan didn't answer right away. He simply watched her. Then he spoke. Quietly, carefully, like the words mattered. She looks like someone who shouldn't be alone. Alira's chest tightened. The boys stepped closer. One tilted his head. Are you lost? Alira almost smiled. Something like that. The other boy took a small step forward. You can come with us. Callan didn't stop him. Didn't correct him. Just waited. Alira looked between them. Then at Callan. You don't even know me. Callan held her gaze. Sometimes you don't need long. Silence settled again. But this time it felt different. Not empty. Not cold. Just waiting. Then he stepped closer, lowered his voice slightly, and said the words that would change everything. You're perfect for my children. Alira froze. Her breath caught. The world seemed to still around her. You don't mean that, she whispered. I don't say things I do mean. Her heart pounded. Too fast. Too loud. Too dangerous. This was how hope started. And hope had never been kind to her. You shouldn't trust strangers, she said quietly. Callan nodded. You're right. That answer surprised her. Then he added, but I trust what I see. Alira shook her head slightly. This doesn't make sense. Most important things don't. The boys had moved closer again. One gently touched her hand. It was small, warm, real. You can stay with us, he said softly, Just tonight. Elira looked down at him, then at the other boy, then back at Callan. What happens if I leave tomorrow? I'll take you wherever you want to go. And if I stay? Callan didn't hesitate. Then you won't be alone anymore. The words settled deep. Too deep. Elira looked at the empty station behind her, then at the road ahead, then at the boys, then at the man who was offering something she had never truly had. A place, a choice, a chance. She took a slow breath. Just tonight. The boys grinned instantly. Callan nodded once. That's enough. The beginning of something unknown. The wagon ride was quiet. The boys fell asleep halfway home, one leaning against her shoulder, the other curled beside her. Elira didn't move, didn't want to wake them, didn't want to disturb something that felt fragile, real. Callan drove in silence, but not an uncomfortable one, just a steady presence, like someone who didn't need words to fill space. When they reached the ranch, the sky was filled with stars, more than she had ever seen before. The house stood strong against the night, warm light glowing from inside. It didn't look like a place that rejected people. It looked like a place that held them, protected them. Callan helped the boys inside. Elira followed slowly, carefully, like stepping into something she didn't quite believe was hers. An older woman sat near the fire. She looked up, studied Elira, longer than most people did. Then she simply said, "You must be tired." No judgment, no disappointment, just understanding. Elira nodded. "I am. Then you'll stay." It wasn't a question. Elira blinked. Callan didn't argue, didn't explain, because somehow it already made sense. And for the first time, that night, as Elira lay in a bed that wasn't cold, in a house that didn't feel empty, she stared at the ceiling, waiting for something to go wrong, for the door to close, for the moment to end. But it didn't. And somewhere down the hall, she heard soft laughter, then small footsteps, then a quiet voice whisper, "I hope she stays." Elira closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel left behind. She felt morning didn't arrive gently. It came with noise, hooves striking dirt, voices calling across the yard, wood creaking, life moving forward whether you were ready or not. Elira woke with a quiet start. For a moment, she didn't recognize the ceiling above her. It wasn't cracked. It wasn't stained. It was whole. Warm light slipped through the window, touching the edge of the bed. Then memory returned. The station. The boys. Callan. The words. "You're perfect for my children." Her chest tightened slightly. Not from fear, but from something unfamiliar. Expectation. She sat up slowly, her fingers gripping the blanket. It was soft, too soft for a life she had known. And that alone made her uneasy, because nothing this gentle had ever lasted. A house that felt too quiet. Elira stepped into the hallway carefully. Voices drifted from downstairs. "You don't know anything about her." The older woman's voice. Firm. Concerned. "She had nowhere to go," Callan replied. "That's not the same as knowing who she is." Silence. Elira froze where she stood. Her heart began to beat faster. Not again. Not another place where she had to prove she was worth staying. She stayed the night, the woman continued, That's kindness, but keeping her here, that's a decision. I've made it. His voice didn't rise, didn't shake, but it didn't move either. It was steady, final, the kind of voice that didn't change once it decided something. And if you're wrong, the woman pressed. A pause. Then, I'm not. Alira's chest tightened. She stepped back quietly before they could hear her. That warmth from the night before it flickered. Reality was returning. And reality had never been kind. Breakfast that felt like a test. When she finally walked into the kitchen, the boys were already at the table. Laughing, arguing over something small and unimportant. Something normal. They looked up at the same time. She's awake. Sit here. They pulled a chair out for her before she could even respond. Alira hesitated, then slowly sat. The older woman stood by the stove. Her eyes met Alira's. Sharp, not cruel, but careful, measuring. You slept well, she asked. Yes, thank you. The woman nodded slightly, then turned back to the stove. No smile, no warmth, but no rejection either. Callan entered a moment later. His presence filled the room quietly. He looked at Alira, not surprised, not questioning, just steady. Morning. Good morning. A simple exchange, but it settled something inside her. Breakfast passed in a strange balance. The boys talked endlessly. Callan listened. The older woman watched. And Alira, she tried not to feel like she was being weighed, measured, judged. Again, the ranch doesn't lie. After breakfast, Callan led the boys outside. They begged Alira to come. She followed. The ranch stretched endlessly under the morning sun. Fields, fences, horses moving like shadows in the distance. It was beautiful, but it was also honest. Nothing here pretended to be more than it was. And that made it feel safer. Can you ride? One of the boys asked. A little. That means no, the other said confidently. Alira laughed softly. It surprised even her. I can learn. Callan glanced at her. Most things worth knowing are learned that way. Their eyes met briefly. Then he looked away. But something unspoken lingered. A moment that changed everything. Later, near the barn, one of the horses grew restless, startled by something unseen. It jerked violently. One of the boys stood too close, too unaware. Stay back, Callan called. But it was too late. The horse reared slightly, and Alira moved. Without thinking, without hesitation, she stepped forward. Her hand reached out gently. Her voice soft. It's okay, easy. The horse stilled. Slowly, its breathing calmed. Its body relaxed. Silence fell over the barn. Callan stared. Not at the horse. At her. The older woman who had followed outside saw it too. Something shifted in her expression. Not fully. Not completely. But enough. You've done that before, she said. Alira lowered her hand. Yes. Where? The question came too quickly. Too sharply. Alira hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. The past she tried to bury. I worked for a family, she said carefully. Worked, the woman repeated. Alira nodded. Until they didn't need me anymore. That wasn't the full truth. But it was enough of it. Callan didn't push. Didn't ask. But his eyes remained on her. Watching. understanding more than she had said. The first crack. That evening, as the sun dipped low, the older woman finally spoke again. Directly. "Kindness is easy in the beginning," she said. Elira looked up. "But staying, that's harder." "I know." "Do you?" the woman asked. Elira met her gaze. "I've never been the one people choose." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Raw. Honest. Unprotected. The woman studied her for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. She softened. Just slightly. "Then maybe it's time you learn what it means to be chosen." Elira's breath caught. Because for the first time, it didn't sound like doubt. It sounded like possibility. But peace never comes alone. That night, just as the house settled into quiet, hoofbeats echoed in the distance. Vast. Urgent. Callan stepped outside immediately. Elira followed to the doorway. A rider approached, dust trailing behind him. He stopped sharply in front of the house. "There's trouble," he said. Callan's expression hardened. "What kind?" The man glanced briefly at Elira, then back at Callan. "The kind that comes looking for someone." Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. "Who?" Callan asked. The rider hesitated, then said the name quietly. "Elira." Her blood ran cold. The world tilted slightly beneath her feet. No. No, they weren't supposed to find her. Not here. Not again. Callan turned slowly. His eyes found hers. Not questioning. Not doubting. But something else. Something stronger. Protective. "Do you know who they are?" he asked. Elira's voice barely came out. "Yes." The wind picked up around them, carrying dust, carrying warning, carrying the past she had tried to outrun. And suddenly, this wasn't just a place she might belong. It was a place she might have to fight to keep. Because some doors do stay closed. Callan stepped closer, lowered his voice. "You don't have to run." Elira shook her head. "You don't understand." "Then help me." Her eyes filled slightly. "They don't let people go." Silence stretched between them. Then Callan said something that changed everything again. "They haven't met me." For the first time since the rider arrived, Elira felt something stronger than fear. Hope. But hope, she knew, always came with a cost. And this time she might have to pay it. Inside the house, the boys laughed softly, unaware. The fire crackled. The night deepened. And outside, trouble was coming closer. Because the past doesn't forget. And this time, it had found her. The night felt different now. Not quiet. Not safe. But waiting. Elira stood just inside the doorway, her hands trembling slightly as she watched the rider speak in low tones with Callan. Every sound felt sharper. Every shadow felt closer. "They'll be here by morning," the rider said. Callan nodded once. "Then we don't wait for morning." Elira stepped forward. "No." Both men turned to her. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "I won't let this become your problem." Callan's gaze didn't move. "It already is." "You don't understand what they want," she said quickly. "Then tell me." Silence. Heavy. Difficult. Elira swallowed. "They don't want me back because they care," she said. "They want what I know." The wind pressed against the house, as if urging the truth out faster. "I worked for them," she continued, "but not as a servant, not really." Callan listened. Still. Focused. "They ran more than a household," Alira said quietly. They moved things, information, money, people. The rider shifted uneasily. They trusted me because I stayed quiet, she added, because I never asked questions. Callan's jaw tightened slightly. But you learned anyway, he said. Alira nodded. I saw things I wasn't supposed to see. And you left. They tried to stop me. Her voice dropped. I ran before they could decide what to do with me. The truth settled over the yard like a storm cloud. Callan exhaled slowly. Then they're not taking you back. Alira shook her head. You don't know them. Callan stepped closer. You don't know me either. Their eyes locked. And for the first time, Alira believed him. A choice that meant everything. Inside, the boys slept peacefully, unaware that the world outside their walls had shifted. Alira stood at the edge of the porch, looking into the darkness. If I stay, they'll come here. They're already coming, Callan replied. She turned to him. You could still send me away. I won't. The answer came too fast. Too certain. Why, she asked. Callan didn't hesitate. Because you're not something to be sent away. Her chest tightened. You barely know me. I know enough. Silence stretched between them. Then Alira whispered. I'm afraid. Callan nodded. That means you understand what matters. She looked at him. Really looked. And realized something she hadn't allowed herself to see before. He wasn't offering rescue. He was offering partnership. Strength beside hers. Not instead of it. And that changed everything. Morning came with dust and danger. The sun hadn't fully risen when they arrived. 3 riders. Then 5. Then more behind them. Dark figures cutting through the golden morning light. Alira stood beside Callan. The boys watched from the window inside, confused but quiet. The older woman stood near them, her hand resting gently on one small shoulder. Stay inside, she whispered. Outside, the riders stopped. A man stepped forward. Well-dressed. Too clean for the road. Too calm for someone who had come this far. Alira, he called. Her name sounded wrong in his voice. Like something owned. Something claimed. You've caused quite a bit of trouble. Alira didn't move. I'm not going back. The man smiled slightly. That was never your decision. Callan stepped forward. It is now. The man's eyes shifted to him. Measured. Dismissive. And you are. Someone who doesn't let people be taken. A pause. Then a soft chuckle. You think this is about kindness. Callan didn't answer. Because he didn't need to. The answer was already clear. The truth they didn't expect. The man stepped closer. Alira knows things, he said. Important things. Callan's voice was calm. Then you shouldn't have let her leave. A flicker of irritation crossed the man's face. She belongs with us. Alira spoke before Callan could. I was never yours. The words landed harder than anything else. The riders shifted. Tension built. The air tightened. Then, one of the boys' voices echoed faintly from inside. Papa. Everything paused. Just for a second. But it was enough. Because in that moment, the truth became clear. This wasn't just about Alira anymore. This was about a home. A family. Something real. And some things are worth fighting for. The line that couldn't be crossed. Callan stepped forward fully now, placing himself between Alira and the riders. You leave, he said simply. The man's expression hardened. Lord. Callan didn't raise his voice, didn't reach for anything, but something in his presence changed. The kind of stillness that comes before a storm. Or you learn what happens when you try to take something that doesn't belong to you. Silence. Long. Heavy. Then, the older rider behind the man leaned closer and whispered something. Something quick. Urgent. The man's expression shifted. Slightly. Not fear, but calculation. He looked at Alira again. Longer this time. Then exhaled. This isn't over. Callan's reply was immediate. It is here. Another pause. Then slowly, the riders turned, one by one, dust rising behind them as they rode away. The danger didn't vanish, but it retreated. And sometimes, that's enough. After the storm, the yard was quiet again. Too quiet. Alira's knees nearly gave out. But she stayed standing. Callan turned to her. You're safe. The words felt unreal. Safe. She had never truly believed in that word before. The front door burst open. The boys ran out. Are you okay? They wrapped around her without hesitation. Without fear. Without doubt. Alira dropped to her knees and held them tightly. I'm okay. Her voice broke slightly. But she didn't hide it. Because for once, she didn't have to. What comes after being chosen? Days passed. Then weeks. No one came back. The ranch returned to its rhythm. But something had changed. Alira no longer stood at the edges. She belonged in the middle of it. At the table. In the barn. In the laughter. The older woman watched her one evening as she helped the boys with a small task. You stayed, she said. Alira looked up. I wanted to. The woman nodded slowly. Good. That single word carried more acceptance than anything before it. And one final question. That night under a sky full of stars, Callan found her standing by the fence. You could still leave, he said. Alira smiled softly. I know. And she looked out across the land, then back at the house, at the light in the windows, at the life inside. I spent so long trying to find a place that would take me, she said quietly. Callan waited. Then she finished. I didn't realize I was meant to find a place I could choose too. Silence. Soft. Peaceful. Then Callan spoke. Do you choose it? Alira met his eyes. Steady. Certain. Yes. Because some stories don't begin with being chosen. They begin with being left behind. Forgotten. Overlooked. But sometimes, the right person doesn't look for perfection. They look for truth. For kindness. For something real. And when they find it, they don't turn away. They stay. They protect it. They build something from it. And in the end, Alira was never the one left behind. She was the one who was meant to be found.